Welcome back, everybody, to story time. So we are picking up on Buried, chapter 2. We're standing on the thin platform of what looks like a fancy subway. The rails look well used, but not old. There are small overhead lights that are very dim, as if they're running on emergency power. The dim overhead lights are a blessing, but the size of the place makes me feel vulnerable. Staring ahead, the tunnel seems to be endless. It's almost dizzying. But there's a small light further ahead, and then a space that breaks the monotony of the tunnel's curved surface. Another platform, maybe. Why are we in a subway tunnel? Dennis doesn't answer. The reality of what we're seeing is sinking in. Whatever this place is, it is buried way underground. That seems impossible to me, making anything that's on the other side of this tunnel dangerous as far as I'm concerned. But of course, we are going to go on. Human curiosity is going to see to that. Also, the ringing noise is louder down here. It's much more solid now, and there's some other sound. Something like the faint hum of machinery. "What's your take on this, boss? You think we're safe here?" Dennis asked. Not at all. This is what I think to myself, but I don't want to let Dennis see that I'm rattled. While he seems to be limping along much better than when we first stumbled into this place, he's still in rough shape. I'm leading him here, and I should probably make him feel confident in that. Yeah, apparently last time I decided to be honest, he didn't like that too well, so yeah, we'll be fine. We're too far in to go back, I say. Besides, if we get caught for trespassing, I'm pretty sure we'd slide by. We're good. You're in pain, and we've got to find the rest of our crew. They should still be here somewhere. Dennis nods and looks reassured, albeit weak and miserable. From the looks of it, we can go either left or right. The left is slightly lit, the right not so much. This makes me uneasy because I get the sense that one wrong turn in a place like this would have us wandering for hours. Suddenly, I jerk my head to the right as I hear the unmistakable sound of someone walking. "Did you hear that?" I asked Dennis, my eyes straining to see anything in the darkness. "Not sure," he says. "Maybe. Kinda sounded like footsteps." I wait a moment, but the sound doesn't come again. So those are our options. To the left are flickering lights indicating that we'll at least be able to see. There's also a hum of machinery, a sign of life. To the right, it's just darkness. But we also heard footsteps in that direction. Let's go right. We need to find people. If there's anyone here, they're worth speaking to. Right it is. As we leave the glow of electric lights, things instantly start to feel a bit more sinister. I look at Dennis's injuries again. The gash along his side is inflamed now. And while the bleeding seems to have stopped, the amount that is soaked into his pants and shirt is beyond alarming. "How much further can you walk?" I ask him. "Can you keep going?" "Yeah," Dennis says. "Let's walk into the deep, dark tunnel that has no business being here." He's right. The darkness we find ourselves in feels thick, like walking in syrup. I'm reminded of the fear I felt as a child when I had to go into the basement to fetch tools for my dad. I was sure there were snakes or spiders or monsters of unimaginable horror lurking down there. I feel that same way here, walking through the tunnel. That's when I see a human figure, far back in the tunnel, silhouetted in the faint light at the end. He's standing on some other platform up ahead, and likely can't see us. It looks like he might be holding a gun, but it's too dark to be sure. If he's holding a gun, we're gonna stay quiet till they can see us. This person might be dangerous. "Dennis," I whisper, "don't move. Be quiet." We both watch as the figure looks back and forth down the tunnel. It's unclear if he's looking for something, or if he's just as lost as we are. But he can't see us in the dark, and after a moment, the figure rushes away through a door. "Why didn't you say anything?" Dennis asked with a disgusted tone. "Maybe we could have gotten some answers." "I don't want to reveal ourselves to anyone who looks like they might have a gun until I know more about where we are," I reply. As we head further into the tunnel, we reach another platform. There's light coming from the platform, but like the overhead lights, they're dim, red emergency lights. I start to wonder if the explosion at the logging site caused a power outage in this place. Whatever this place is. The ringing noise that I originally thought was in my head is getting louder, and starting to think it's some sort of alarm. When we come to the large open area ahead of the tunnel, it further resembles a subway station. As much as I try to ignore the reality, it's undeniable. We've stumbled into some sort of high-tech transportation system that is buried beneath the forest of Kentucky. It makes absolutely no sense and creates an entirely new sort of fear as to what the hell we're walking into. I notice that Dennis seems confident, though. When we reach the large opening, we have to climb over the rails and up onto the platform. I have to help Dennis over the rails and then up the small utility ladder that is bolted into the opposite side of the trailway. When he reaches the large open area resembling a subway waiting area, he collapses on the floor and lets out a heavy breath. "You know what?" Dennis says, exasperated. "This is ridiculous. I quit. I'm not going any further." On top of worrying about my crew and the madness of wherever we are, I'm not in the mood for Dennis to act like a baby. He needs some tough love. Get up, pull it together, Dennis. I'm ashamed that I'm getting irritated with him. "Oh, you think I'm just relaxing here?" he asks sarcastically. "Sorry if I'm slowing your progress. Great plan you got here, by the way." His response makes my blood boil. I don't need this shit from him right now, that's for sure. Yeah, we're gonna help him up slowly. He is still hurt, though. I can't stand the guilt anymore. A sappy apology comes out my mouth before I can clamp my lips down against it. I'm sorry I lost my temper, I say. It was uncalled for. But I'm under some stress here, as I'm sure you can understand. He hesitates for a moment, and I'm sure that he'll ignore me, but he surprises me. "I get it," he says. "Apology accepted. As for me, sorry I was being a jerk. Apparently, bleeding out makes me kind of high-strung." Dennis is always high-strung, and about 2 harsh words away from trading punches with someone, but I keep that to myself. We exchange an awkward look and put it behind us. It's no different than some argument we might have had on the job site or over a few beers. One thing is for sure. I'd much rather be arguing with him over a few beers than here in this nightmare. I reach down, help him to his feet, then we get ourselves up onto the platform. Right in front of us, there's an entrance to a long hallway, exiting the platform area. It's at this point that I realize these red emergency lights might be on for someone else who is actually supposed to be here, like the guy I saw earlier standing on the platform. I'm gonna yell out, so that way if the guy did have a gun, he knows we're here now. "Hello? Anyone here?" I ask, my voice raising to an almost shout. There's not much of an echo. My voice falls flat like a rock from the sky. I'm almost glad that I don't get an answer. Hearing anything else in this hollow silence would have given me a heart attack. The emergency lights continue to flicker overhead, casting a sick sort of pinkish light on everything. My mind is racing with what sort of place this might be. It's obvious that it's meant to be a secret. And if it is supposed to be a secret, and there was a power outage recently, maybe most everyone has been evacuated. But then, why was that one person still here? This thought does nothing to make me feel any better as we walk towards the platform exit. We step inside, and it seems just as empty as every other place we've come through, weakly illuminated by more overhead emergency lights. We're standing inside a hallway that looks surreal for a moment. The hallway reminds me of a hospital wing, but there's something not quite right about it. It's the first clean and tidy area I've seen since coming into the woods. It looks like it was recently in use, despite the dim emergency lights overhead. There are chairs against the walls, and the floors look well cleaned, as do the walls. The ringing noise is definitely coming from here, and a small flashing red light along the ceiling seems to flash along with it. That ringing noise is an alarm, I say, if only to comfort my own thought. "But what for?" Dennis asks. And then he asks a question that has been on my mind since we fell in that hole. What the hell is this place? We exchange a look that speaks volumes. We reach the end of the hallway and hear a sound like a large metallic grinding. This is followed by a clicking noise, and then the unmistakable noise of a generator kicking on. Without warning, the facility jolts to life. The red glow of the emergency lights is suddenly replaced by bright white fluorescent ones. That mechanical hum is oddly comforting. Somehow, the power being back on urges us on. It's then that I notice the ringing noise has stopped. So it had been an alarm. But for what? Just the power failure? We head down the hallway, the electric hum of the lights sounding eerie overhead. Other than that, the place is dead quiet. The hall is about 100 feet long, with 2 main doors. One door opens onto a large room that looks like a conference room, with a whiteboard and papers strewn about. Across the hallway, another door looks like a laboratory of some sort. Dennis slumps against the wall in defeat and lets out a scary-sounding chuckle. "Something funny?" I ask as a dark and brooding panic starts to grip me. Dennis just keeps chuckling as he slides down to the floor. "I'm just gonna sit here while you look around," he says. There's a look in his eyes that reminds me far too much of a dead animal on the side of the road. Let's enter the conference room, see if we can find any papers that tell us what's going on. A large table sits in the middle of the room, lined with a series of chairs. It looks like something straight out of a showroom. A well-used whiteboard hangs on the wall, and there are scattered papers on the desk. Let's look at the whiteboard. A few things are scribbled on the whiteboard, mostly formulas and names. But there are some things that are easy to understand, things that make my blood go cold. Subject number 6, cause of death, embolism, or aneurysm, or both. Ideas for new delivery mode, spherical, liquid, induced comatose, state first. Terracorco equals possible plutonium supplier. Yep, that's scary. Let's look at the papers on the table. Most of the papers and printouts have codes and equations that go way over my head. But there are also handwritten notes that don't make me feel any better about our situation. I read through them and see scrawled notes that say things like, last experiment failed equals overdose before transport. Levels indicate cellular catabolism. More lead shielding in export suits? Measurements make no sense. Let Barksdale know about possible Higgsfield fix. Outside in the hallway, I hear Dennis grunting. I head out of the room to see him still seated on the floor. But I don't get very far, because as I exit, a man comes rushing around the corner with an automatic rifle in his hand. It's hard to look beyond his rifle, but the man carrying it is young, with messy, dark hair. His skin is so pale that I wonder if maybe he lives down here. He has the look of a guy who's been cooped up for a little too long. He doesn't seem like the kind of person I trust with a gun in a stressful situation. As he sees us in the doorway, he screams and brings the gun up. It is aimed directly at my head. Dennis jumps up and stands next to me, like he's ready to run for it. I recognize him by his height and build. He's the person I could barely see back in that dark tunnel. Well, it's a good thing that, we didn't yell out to him. I'm gonna put my hands up in the air. I put my hands in the air, surprised at how natural it feels to go into this surrendered state. Maybe it's because this feels like a dream. Maybe it's because I feel like I'll snap awake if the maniac pulls the trigger. I recognize you. You stomped around and set off security mic in the entrance. What? I ask, unable to think of anything else to say. Who are you? The man asked. Did you do this? The man eyes us both, and I see something in his eyes that unsettles me. He is scared. But there's something else. We're just loggers. Be honest. His eyes look distant for a minute, and then he says, bullshit. But for some reason, I'm pretty sure he knows I'm telling the truth. Someone knocked the power out, the man says. It's back on now, but if it was long enough, well, we're in a heap of trouble. Was it you? Who sent you? Look, we don't know what you're talking about, Dennis says. Something happened out in the woods. Are you alone? Are others with you? The armed man asked, thrusting the gun in my face. How the hell did we get in this situation, I think to myself. If we hadn't fallen into that hole, we wouldn't be here. I'm not really sure if we want to be giving this guy information. We don't know anything about him. Then again, he might have answers. He might know where our crew is, so we're looking for our crew. We have other crew members that we can't find, I say. Your crew? He asks, seeming confused. If this man thinks that we're nuts, there's no telling what he might do. The fact that he looks a little crazy himself makes the situation even hairier. How'd you get in here? The man asks. I point down the hall towards the subway. We came in that way. The doors weren't locked. His expression calms a bit, but I'm still very aware of the gun that is leveled less than a foot away from my face. Ooh, what to do? I mean, if you grab the gun, then it could very potentially go off. He's not too crazy at the moment, so please put the gun down. Let's try to reason. The only way I'm putting this rifle down is after I've blown your brains out, the man says. Well, damn. With that, he uses the muzzle of the gun to flip my hard hat onto the floor. It's a childish move, a playground tactic at best, but it is sufficient to show me that he knows he's in control now. He then levels the rifle at Dennis, and I can only assume it's because his wounds make him appear to be the weaker of us. The man takes a shaky step forward. Dennis looks back and forth between the barrel of the gun and me, his eyes pleading for help. Oh my gosh! Why did this guy do this? Well, I'm going to step between Dennis and the gun. I mean, I need to help him. Before I'm fully aware of what I'm doing, I step out in front of Dennis. The barrel of the rifle is nearly touching my chest now. Both Dennis and the man seem a little confused in my action. I do my best to swallow down my fear. I don't know what's going on here, I say, but we're here by mistake. Well, you have no business being here, the man says. But now that the power's on, I think you might be too late anyway. For what? I ask. But he doesn't answer me. Instead, he steps forward and actually pushes me backwards with the end of his rifle. The man then repeats a question he asked before, one that makes no sense and honestly makes me think he might be a little crazy. Who sent ya? He asks. You assholes from the Pentagon? I'm not quite sure how to take this question. Is this guy joking? We're still gonna stay honest. No, what the hell are you talking about? No, I say. We're just loggers. Something blew up and my friend got hurt. We're looking for the rest of our crew. Likely story, the man says. But I see a flicker of recognition in his face that makes me think he might believe me. Still, his grip on the gun is as tight as ever. The look on his face makes me think he'll shoot at any moment. You both just stand still, he says. Sooner or later, someone will come along and I'll turn you over. He again thrusts the gun forward, as if it has an invisible bayonet on it. There's no need for that, I tell him. I have no guarantee that he won't pull the trigger. Look, Dennis says, we don't want any trouble. We're just as confused as you are. Then, in a movement so fast that I just about missed it, Dennis lunges forward. I have no idea how he's moving so fast. Just 30 seconds ago, I was worried about how close to death he looked. But now he's moving lightning fast, his left arm coming down on the barrel of the gun like a club. In the commotion, the man does pull the trigger. The booming noise is deafening, and there's a moment where I think I've been hit. It takes the clanging noise of the round tearing into the floor at my feet to help me realize that I've not been shot. I look to the floor and see where the shot missed my right leg less than 3 inches. I'm paralyzed, in shock for a moment, as Dennis and the man fight over possession of the rifle. There's a fire extinguisher on the wall I could use as a bludgeon, but I might not have enough time to grab it before Dennis is overpowered. Punch him! He seems weak. Punch him! Dennis has the man pinned to the floor, but isn't strong enough to keep him. They're loggers! They're loggers! As I fall to the floor to help, the barrel of the rifle swings right in front of my face, a reminder of how close I had come to being shot. On my knees now, I deliver a hard, stiff punch to the man's face. I don't punch someone often. Never really. I'm not usually the brawling type. Still, it is apparently effective. The man's head snaps back hard, and his grip on the gun loosens. Dennis grabs the gun and falls to the floor, clearly winded and in pain. Our attacker is immobilized, and I can feel a shift in the situation. Yet, although he is basically harmless now, I feel the need to pummel him, a desire that builds with each second I look at him. Do I take the good route and step back, or do I keep punching? You know what? I'm gonna keep punching him. This guy's absolutely insane. He said he would not rest until he blew out my brains. So we keep hitting him. I'm not sure where the anger comes from. It's It's probably been buried under the panic and exhaustion, but it comes out in a series of punches, my fist flying as I kneel over him. My right hand smashes into his nose, drawing blood. My left clips his lower lip, busting it. "Roger," Dennis yells. "What are you doing? He's defenseless now." Somewhere in the flurry of punches, I bust open his right eyebrow. Oh my god. It's not until I see the multiple trails of crimson flowing and trickling down his face that I finally stop. I look to my fists as if I've never seen them before. I'm slightly embarrassed that I was unable to stop myself. Dennis instantly hands the rifle. Why would you hand the rifle to the unstable person that just attacked this guy that was defenseless? Hands over the rifle, and I take it with shaking hands. "I can't believe you stepped between me and that gun," Dennis says. "He could have been killed." "I was pretty sure he wouldn't," I say, although I had known no such thing. "Still, thanks, man. That was some heroic stuff. You would have done the same, right?" Dennis says nothing. His eyes look to the floor. "I don't think you needed to keep hitting him like that," Dennis says, some trembling in his voice. I don't say anything. He's probably right, but it was too much of a risk. "Wait, did I kill him?" "What do we do now, boss?" Dennis asks. "We've come this far, and I want answers." I sense that Dennis does too. I walk over and pick up my hard hat up off the floor. After placing it on my head, I turn towards the man. "Yeah, the hard hat. It's instinct. We get answers from this guy." "No answers," the man manages to whisper, his eyes fluttering. Blood is all over his head and neck from where I let loose on him. "Okay, let's move," I say, pointing the gun further down the hallway. "We've come this far, and I'm not going to let this guy stop us." We walk down the hallway until we come to the end. A single elevator waits for us. Its steel sliding doors larger than a normal elevator. "Alright guys, confession time. I don't think I made the right choice there. I probably should not have punched the living crap out of that guy. I'm just going to say that right now. I do not condone violence." Before I get into the elevator with this guy, I think it's wise to learn a bit more about him. I can tell it's making him uncomfortable for me to have... Well, I bet it does. For me to have the gun. "What's your name?" I ask. "Marcus." "And you work here?" It's clear that he doesn't want to answer, but he gives a little nod. "We're looking for the rest of our crew. Any idea where they might be?" I ask. "No," he says curtly, not bothering to elaborate. There's got to be some useful info we can get out of this guy. I just need to know how to dig for it. "I need a first aid kit for my friend here," I say. "Where might I find one?" "Down on the second floor," he says. "But we can't go down there." "Well, why not? What's on level 2? He looks at me like I'm an idiot. "You must be aware you're inside of a classified government facility," he says. It makes sense, but I want to doubt it. "Well, I'm sure our government would want you to help save my friend, so take me to the first aid kit." "I can't," he says. "You don't have clearance." "Hell, I barely have clearance." Then, seemingly to himself, he mutters, "I make this place run. And not even a thank you. Just a bunch of restricted access rooms that I'm only allowed to go into with a frickin' chaperone." I interrupt his monologue. "We're going to that first aid kit." "I could lose my job," he says, squinting through the blood where I'd bashed him over and over. I wonder for a moment what sort of trouble I could get into for hitting a government employee, especially as hard as I did. Then again, he had come at us with a rifle. It makes me think that things have gone terribly wrong in this place. And the explosion in the woods, or whatever the hell had happened, might be linked to it all. I need to convince him to take us to the second floor, but I'm not sure if it would be more productive to threaten him or ask for sympathy. Well, I already did the threatening part, and that didn't really get me what I needed, so we're going to ask for help, go the sympathy route. "Look," I say, "it hasn't been the best day." That is an understatement. "We're just trying to find out what's going on, to find our crew, to survive. I know that this isn't a normal situation down here. It looks like all your protocols have been blown to hell. Can't you help us out?" He looks at me sternly, weighing his options. "Okay," he says. "Thank you," I say. With an untrusting stare, Marcus walks to the elevator door, approaching a small keypad by the doors. He punches in a numerical code on the keypad, and we can hear a slight mechanical hum behind the steel doors. After a few seconds of angry glances and frightened sneers from Marcus, the elevator arrives. The steel doors slide open with a whisper, revealing the interior. It's exceptionally well lit and looks to be made of stainless steel. I half expect the thing to take off at the speed of light. There's another small keypad on the front right panel by the door with the options for 3 sub-level floors. Looks like this elevator doesn't go to the surface. So, after we get a first aid kit for Dennis, how do we get out of here, I ask. We can't leave, Marcus says. Once the power came back on, the whole place put on lockdown. What? I shout. Can't you override it? Nah, it's to prevent anything from getting out. I can't. Marcus looks as deflated as Dennis. We can't get out. We're stuck here. Dennis leads into the corner and almost falls onto the floor. The struggle for the rifle took a lot out of him. I can see that much in his face. Slowly, we start to move. The hum and grind of the car motors fill the space. Well, what can you do? Marcus bristles at the question, but I think it's fair. I mean, he's not allowed to unlock the doors or even get medical supplies. Why keep a guy around who can't even grab a Band-Aid without permission? Without me, nothing would be done around here, Marcus answers me. These people think they're so brilliant, but some of them can barely turn on their computers without help. Mood. The top coder in my class at MIT, and I'm stuck living underground helping idiots who don't even trust me with keys. Alright, so what goes on here? Marcus shakes his head. May as well shoot me. I can't tell you. Why not? It's beyond classified. The things I know don't even cover the start of it. What does that even mean? I asked, starting to get irritated. It means that even if I wanted to tell you what sort of work is done here, I don't know enough about it. How big is the place then? It's a government facility of the highest secrecy, Marcus says. A research facility. It goes 4 stories underground. Quite frankly, it scares the piss out of me that you two got in here so easily. Why is that, I ask. This is a black ops graveyard, he replies. Even the CIC doesn't know about this place existing. Well, what knocked the lights out? Seems like some sort of power outage, Marcus says. That's all I know. There was an outage and then what? Dennis asks weakly. Then things got weird. Things got bad. Bad how? I ask. The whole place seemed to shake when the lights went out. I was checking the monitors when it happened and everything went dead. It took no more than a minute or so before I started hearing the screams. People were being killed by something. I tried getting the security cameras going again, but they only lasted for a little bit on my backup systems. But what I saw... What? I ask, feeling a sharp fear worm its way into my guts. Well, what I saw on the screens for that little bit of time made no sense. It made me get the gun from the emergency vault. I think whatever it is, it's still down here. Hold on, I say. There's an emergency vault with a rifle in the same room as the security cameras in this place? Marcus gives me a grin that looks nearly insane. There are guns locked away in every room in this place. Just in case, you know? Okay, so we're still in danger? Like, we're actively going down. As he opens his mouth to answer, the elevator comes to a stop and the doors slide open. Marcus is out right away, without a word. He makes his exit and heads directly for a glassed-in room that is filled with computer monitors and high-end equipment. Dennis and I file out behind him, trying to keep up. As we do, one very alarming question runs through my head. What the hell kind of government facility keeps loaded guns and emergency vaults in every single room? End of chapter 2. Oh man, some things happened there that I'm really not sure about. Curiosity. You and 42% of players stayed quiet when you saw Marcus in the tunnel. Selflessness. You and 64% of players stepped in front of Dennis to protect him from Marcus. Mercy. You and 35% of players kept hitting Marcus after he surrendered. I still think that was the wrong thing to do, but 35% of players are with me on that one. So thank you very much for joining me on Chapter 2 of Buried. I am continuing to love this game. So we now know it's definitely a government facility. We definitely know that there is something that's killing people. We now have the confirmation that people are actually dying. So this is just insane. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen, if Dennis is going to make it through it, what we're going to find out, and how we're going to wind up getting out of this place if we're actually stuck there. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in Chapter 3. Bye!